The 2008 film Australia is now a mini series, and I'm not talking about they took the premise from the movie, it's an adaptation. No. Baz Luhrmann, over COVID, decided to take some extra footage that he had shot for the movie Australia, and this is the actual movie Australia, but in a TV show form. There's about an extra hour of footage in here. Let's talk about Faraway Downs. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my TV review for the new Hulu series, Faraway Downs. New, I guess, sort of in quotations, because it is, of course, like I said, based on this movie Australia from 15 years ago, and based around the footage from that film. But I'll talk about all of this here in just a moment. First, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We got movie and TV reviews up on the channel. Just about every day I try to post something new, so always something new to check out. Please consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, like this video, share it on your socials, do all the things, really, and I would sure appreciate it. All right, so look, I never saw the movie Australia, so let's start there. I think that probably works in my favor for this TV show, because now I'm not comparing and contrasting, oh, they did this and they left this out. I did read up on some of the differences, because it's not just the movie Australia with bonus footage. It's not quite that. It's a bit of a restructuring from what I understand of the movie. But yeah, this came out in 2008. I was working at a video store at the time, so I was definitely starting to up my movie game. But it wasn't until I started working at a movie theater that I really was like, okay, I'm going to try and watch everything that comes out, you know, whether or not I'm really interested in it. And so when Australia came around, I really, a 3-hour epic, Baz Luhrmann was not one of my favorites at the time. I've come to really appreciate his style in his last couple of movies, Elvis and The Great Gatsby. But I really did not like Moulin Rouge, which also had Nicole Kidman and Baz Luhrmann as a team. So I'm like, I don't really care much about this movie, Australia. I'm going to take a pass. But I had heard actually kind of mixed things. I know it's sort of got not great critical reviews. Like, my parents loved it, though. They've seen it many times. Critically, it was a bit more mixed. But anyway, nothing that I really was gravitated to. But I heard this was coming out, and I thought, all right, well, this will finally be a way to watch this movie, sort of. And if I want to kind of break it up into chunks, I can do that. It's 6 episodes total. But here's the interesting thing. I ended up just binging it anyway. So I kind of watched it all right in a row in one day. So, maybe I sort of missed the point. But the episode lengths vary greatly. I think the finale is almost an hour, but then there's a couple of episodes that are like 24, 28 minutes, and then kind of everything in between. So the total runtime here is about 3 hours and 45 minutes, but every episode has a 2.5-minute intro, and then you chop off the ending credits and stuff. That takes away about 20 minutes. So it's somewhere in the 3.5-hour range, which is about 40 minutes above where the film was. So one main thing is that the ending is different, apparently, from this, between this and Australia. And I will not say what happens in the end that's different. I will not say anything about that. I'm not going to do spoilers, but it does take a different path at the end. And I gotta be honest, it was not my favorite part of the show. I think I would have appreciated the movie's ending a little bit more. But this takes place in the late 30s and early 1940s across northern Australia, with World War II looming, and the bombings and all of that. And it stars, like I mentioned, Nicole Kidman, but also Hugh Jackman. So this is basically taking their story and kind of like I said, chopping it up a little bit, maybe rearranging some of the scenes. But one of the other main differences is it actually focuses a lot more on this child, Nulla, who is played by Brandon Walters. He is an Aboriginal boy. He is one of the lost children. There's a little graphic that comes up at the beginning of each episode that talks about the lost generation and, these kids being ripped from their homes, et cetera, et cetera. And so I look, I guess we're at a different time now, 2023. We want to focus a little more on these stories that have not been told, rather than, seeing two beautiful white people making out. Maybe we would rather see a little bit more depth with, something like the lost children situation. So, okay. But listen, they are beautiful people. There's no denying it. It's interesting though seeing, a quote unquote new show with Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman from years and years ago, because Nicole Kidman, of course, looks a bit different now. She's had some work done, but and Hugh Jackman, just looks older, more grizzled in the face, of course. But knowing that this came out 15 years ago, okay, give it a pass. But Baz Luhrmann, look, he knows how to shoot something. So it's, gorgeous backdrops. It was shot in Australia. So the guy knows his way behind a lens. So that part is great. But I think one of the main issues I've always sort of heard about the movie Australia is that it's a bit all over the place, in tone and stuff. And I found that to be the case as well with this. I thought maybe it would be a nice chance for Luhrmann to perhaps correct some of those things. But, I feel about Baz Luhrmann, even though I like some of his more recent stuff, I do think he's a bit full of himself as a director, and probably he wouldn't really let anybody in on, hey, here's what I'm doing, let me get feedback, So I think this is just a bit more Baz Luhrmann-y. Now, not to the sense that he's playing hip hop songs in the movie like he does in The Great Gatsby in the 20s and Elvis in the 50s and 60s. It's not that, luckily. But there is a huge Wizard of Oz component to this movie. They watch The Wizard of Oz several times. They sing over the rainbow. They play over the rainbow on their instruments. Like, it's very Wizard of Oz heavy. So who produced it? Must be the same company as Wizard of Oz, right? Because that's some expensive rights. This was it was distributed by Fox, I believe. I believe Warner Brothers currently has the rights to Wizard of Oz, but all right, whatever. That was probably an expensive choice on Luhrmann's part, but yeah. So Wizard of Oz is like the only movie they've ever heard of. I'm an Oz fan, but this movie pops up in so many other movies with people just watching it and quoting it and whatever. Was it distracting? Not really, but I don't know. Every episode of this seemed to have some kind of Wizard of Oz thing going on. But anyway, yeah, it is a bit totally all over the place. There's sort of a happy-go-lucky, sort of vibe, a little bit with the Hugh Jackman character. And then obviously, the really, dramatic stuff with the boy, but also, the boy is a kid, so he's doing kid things, some of the movie. It is a little bit at odds with itself, I think, tonally. And I will say, I because it was broken up into these episodes, even though I did binge them back to back to back to back, I didn't really feel like, oh, this is really dragging on. So I do think maybe focusing a little bit more on his story, the kid, is appropriate. Maybe that actually helped kind of break up some of the issues that the film had. I don't know, haven't seen it, like I said, but that's my guess based on watching this. So my recommendation would be, if you've never seen the movie Australia, give this a try. Faraway Downs. It's not great. I'm going to give it, a fairly average grade. But if you have seen the movie Australia, I'm not sure if this is necessary for you, unless you really were wondering, oh, let me hear more about the background of this kid. He does a lot of narration in this, a lot of voiceover from him. So, okay, if you want to focus on that part of it and you didn't think the movie did that enough, sure, give this a try. But otherwise, I'm not sure that you really need to see this if you watch the movie, especially if you didn't like the movie. Now, if you like the movie, it might be interesting to see. But what would be interesting, I think, is if, because of this, we get more of these directors that always shoot like massive, massive amounts of film, like Tarantino, Ridley Scott. Well, Tarantino movies are long enough, but Ridley Scott, I don't know, Spielberg, Ron Howard, some of these great directors that I really appreciate, kind of diving back into some of their old work, and not like George Lucas and sort of, erasing certain parts of it, but no, maybe reframing some things, maybe putting in some of that footage, and it's not necessarily like a director's cut, but chopped into kind of chapters like this. I think certainly it's an interesting experiment that we did with this show, but is it a great show? No. I will say that. I believe Faraway Downs with a C+. All right, thank you for watching. You can check that out, by the way, on Hulu. Like I said, it's in 6 episodes. It's all up right now for your enjoyment. All right, thanks for watching. Dan Reviews It. I'll see you next time.